Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar for today. Just going to give everybody a few moments to filter in and then we will get started. Thanks so much for your patience. If you've just come into the meeting, thanks so much for joining us. We'll get started in about one more minute. Alrighty, looks like we are ready to get it going. Again, thank you so much for joining. Welcome to our webinar for today. Just a reminder, if any questions do come to mind during the presentation, please feel free to just drop those in the question box on the right-hand control panel, and we'll be sure to get those answered for you. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to our amazing presenter, Joe.
Thank you so much, Madison, and thank you everybody for joining us today. I'm super excited to continue presenting this content to you. As you saw, this is going to be more about the customization of content here in AttackIQ and how easy it is to do. That's why I've called this one, You Can Do That Too, because we're doing more of this content customization in the AttackIQ platform. By way of introduction, my name is Joe Marino. I'm Director of Sales Engineering for North America here at AttackIQ. I've been with AttackIQ for about 2.5 years or so, and I've been in the industry for roughly 20 years, with most of the time being in security, both as a customer and on the vendor side as well. So I certainly understand both sides of the table there. And I've done a lot of different things over the course of that career, especially now dealing with a lot of purple teaming and bringing a lot of those different skill sets and capabilities together. So I'm super excited to be here and to present all of this content to you, again, to make this as easy as possible. What we'll be talking about today is a reminder of the problems that we're solving with customization here in platform, what benefits you get from doing that kind of customization, more examples of how you can customize things in AttackIQ, and of course, to give you a live demonstration of how all of this fits in together in the platform and how easy it is to put all these things together. What this webinar is not, if you've seen the first one, this is not a tutorial on custom scenario development in Python. That is another supported capability, and it is awesome. But this is designed to be even easier to get into and use. You find something, you want to put it on the platform, you want to use it, that's what this is here for, to make this really, really super simple and easy for you. This is also the second in a series. The first one that I did a few weeks back goes into some other easy and powerful customization options as well. That video is available on our YouTube channel. If anybody needs to find it, ask us questions and we'll make sure to direct you over to it. But this is just a continuation of that series. So what problems are we solving here? What are we trying to do? There are things that require some rapid customization. Maybe there's content you can't share, or you can't wait for a release to test in some hot intelligence that you have. Perhaps you've gotten something from your information sharing organization, like your FSISAC or LSISO or something along those lines, where you have that information, you can't necessarily share it to a broader group, but you need to be able to test against that intelligence as quickly as possible. The aforementioned Python development that could take too many cycles to go through based off of the intelligence that you have and you need to test for it right now. Or you have content that is especially specific to you. Maybe you have a very specific spear phishing email that came in that you want to test against, or this type of network traffic that really only seems to pop up inside of your environment. These are all perfectly valid use cases. I'm sure there are more, but these are some that are easy really for anyone to be able to grab. So what benefits do you get from then doing this? Same ones as we talked about before if you've seen the first one, but if you haven't, you can make custom content very quickly in the platform. You can then take that content and test out an indicators of compromise or a tactic, technique, procedure that only you have seen or very few people have seen. You can also test remediation from a recent test or, heaven forbid, an incident. Maybe you have that thing. You have that thing from your recent pen test. You have that thing from your recent incident. And you want to be able to prove that your controls are now able to stop and see that thing that you have found there or what happened to you. That's exactly what this allows you to do. This leads us to some more some other example use cases. I had the example use cases I had in the prior talk were about things like command execution, script execution, using an atomic red team a script, and how you can easily put all that into the platform. I wanted to expand that and bring in a few other controls that we can monitor for here as well, especially based on the network side of things. One is you can have a custom packet capture or a brand new one that you want to try to bring in and use here on the AttackIQ platform. Totally cool. You've had a targeted spear phishing email, and you want to be able to take that custom email. You know the subject, you know the content, the body of the email, you know the attachments of the links that were there, and you want to use that in the AttackIQ platform. Also totally support it. Test out, in the first case, your network detection and response tool. In the second case here, the phishing email. Let's test out our email security gateway and make sure that it's able to stop and see these things as they're coming in. If we adjusted our policies to be able to stop these things. Maybe we have some new or custom web application firewall test. You want to try out a different type of web request. You want to put in a different kind of user agent or add on some more data to that web request and test out whether or not you'd be able to stop and see these malicious attacks on your web applications. All of this completely supported out of the box scenarios that you can quickly and easily customize to fit your needs. So how are we going to do this? Well, let's quickly remind you of the AttackIQ product portfolio, and then we'll do a live demonstration featuring the AttackIQ Enterprise Platform. There are three main offerings here at AttackIQ. First one is AttackIQ Flex. This is an agentless, really, a test as a service. And it's very, very self-service oriented. You download the packages of what you want. You want to test out your endpoint security control, your EDR, your endpoint antivirus. You want to test out your content filtering, or you want to try to run an attacker emulation based off of pre-scripted content that we already have. Download the package, run it on whatever machine you want. You don't have to have our test point software on it. Upload the results, get back the report. And you just pay for what it is that you want. Very, very easy to get into. We can then expand that more into a service, that breach attack simulation as a service, and that's what we call AttackIQ Ready. AttackIQ Ready also takes in, you have the ability to use Flex now along with AttackIQ Ready. We give you some of those capabilities, and then we also add on more of the structured scheduled content with AttackIQ Ready, where we select a series of these test packages to run. So you can run against your security controls against a number of different baselines and get back data on a weekly, monthly basis to be able to track your progress over time. We also allow you to add on whatever are the tests you want from the packages that we have, again, added to your regularly scheduled tests, and you have the ability to use Flex right along with it. And then what we'll be talking about today is easily the most feature-rich and customizable product offering, and that is the AttackIQ Enterprise Platform, where you have the ability to not only select the types of tests that you want to run, but you have many more customization options related to those. And that's why we go through the Enterprise Platform here today to show you what some more of those will look like. The platform is typically delivered in a SaaS fashion, and then what happens is you deploy one or more test points on endpoints that you have in order to run this type of attacker behavior that we're going to be going through here today. The results go back up into the platform, and then you determine with those results that come from the test points, as well as indicators that would come in from your security stack, your EDR, your firewall, your SIM technologies, whether or not you have the telemetry to be able to see the attacks that we've been running inside of your environment. Let's go take a look at the AttackIQ Enterprise Platform and how we have customized content to be able to work here. I'm going to take you through those 3 examples that I mentioned earlier. I'm just going to shift my screen here for a moment and bring myself over to the AttackIQ platform. But first, what I want to do is bring you to the use case of where am I going to go to find some things. And I'll just give you one example. There's lots of places you can find stuff, but one that really anyone would be able to access would be something like, and let me bring my screen up here, there we go. Malwaretrafficanalysis.net is one that I've been using for quite a while. One thing to note, to be very, very careful about any of the information that's here. We are looking at, in these cases, we were not only looking at the packet captures, but many times these will contain live samples. So I would always exercise the greatest of caution whenever using any files like this, any things that we would be bringing into the AttackIQ environment if we have not had control over that. So just be very, very cautious of anything that you are doing here and take the proper safeguards and precautions when dealing with these files. Always assume that they are live. So making sure that I get that out of the way right at the front. I wanted to be able to take a packet capture. So there were packet captures that were available here based off of this coil loader and stealer activity. So I was able to download that packet capture, and now I want to load it into a packet capture scenario. So how did I do that? Well, I'm going to take you over into the AttackIQ platform, take a look at the scenario library, and then we'll be able to see how we got to that point. Over in the AttackIQ platform here, I have this, and you see I already have this scenario done, this PCAP replay, coil loader, stealer activity. The scenarios that are here, if you haven't seen the platform before, think of these scenarios as they were like ingredients in a recipe. So these are all of the individual behaviors that you would run on those test points. And then we will build up an assessment, think then the recipe for all of those ingredients that we were just working with. So I'm now going to take this scenario, and how did I make this? Well, this is based off of, if I look at this scenario description, I can see that this is based off of a scenario template. So I built it off of something. It's built off of this this PCAP replay. Apologize, click that link, I shouldn't have. This PCAP replay scenario, it's over here. I'm going to open up that template. This PCAP replay template scenario it is going to be used as the kind of the jumping point for how we would create one of these scenarios here. Whenever I want to configure one of these scenarios, I go over into the parameters section. Now the description here will not only tell me what the scenario is and does, it'll also explain all of the parameters and how we configure this. This is how we do the customization of content here with these scenarios. I click into the parameters section over here, and I would just want to add that packet capture file. To do that, I would simply add on that packet capture file, and then I would go to where I have that particular file. Very easy for me to do. I would add in that packet capture file. You see it does have a file size limit, but I really haven't hit that limit yet. The rest of the defaults are pretty fine. So I generally don't have to change a lot of these. I can customize this further if I want to. Do I want to have this run to a custom destination port, a custom destination IP address? How do I want this packet capture to run? But generally, I want to just load in the PCAP and have it go. If I want some inspiration on, and I did cover this on the last talk as well, but it always bears repeating. If I want to get some inspiration on how AttackIQ has done this, I take a look at the models right over here, and I can take a look at any of the PCAP replay scenarios that AttackIQ has already built for this. About 270 as I'm looking at this right now. Another thing to note is that as I'm going through all of these capabilities, packet capture replay, web application firewall, email testing, this is based off of something that we added into the platform. You may have also heard it referred to as boundary posture management because it's mostly looking at network-based controls. So this is something we added into the platform later on. So, okay. So this is something that if you're using the platform today, you don't see it, definitely reach out to us. because we had added this on as a module to the platform, and now there is something that you would need to look into the enterprise portion of the platform for to see if this is something that you have in your platform today. So if you have questions about that and the availability of the content, definitely please reach out to us about that. So the PCAP replay that is here, I can take a look at any of these and see how these are built. If I were to take a look at any one of these, it would then open up that scenario, and I would see exactly how this works. We would then also include some explanation as to what this scenario, again, is and does, the parameters that are here. I can see the packet capture replay that is there. I can just download that file, fire it up into Wireshark, no problem. But I'm getting a little bit further away from my intended destination. So now that we understand how the scenario works, how the templates work and the models work, let's go back to our scenario. The way I have this built, there we go. So what I did was I took that packet capture, I added it in right over here. Once I added that file, I can of course go ahead and download that anytime I like. I left all of the other options the way that they were, completely fine. My overview, I did also add in, because you can edit these scenario descriptions when you save these really as your own. And then I can just add in a few extra notes in here. I can put in really whatever else I want. I linked in the location where I got the files, as well as any of their additional descriptions. A lot of this came from Palo Alto Unit 42. So I was able to see a bit more of a write-up on what this is and some more of the indicators. So this is now done, and I'll be able to run this inside of my my related assessment. The next scenario that I wanted to try to do was to create this email and create this malicious looking email over here. Same concept applies. Now, how did I get to here? Well, I have another scenario. This is another scenario template. It is called test ingress email filters. And the way this one works is I take a look again at the parameters. What this one is going to do is it is going to send a malicious email, or really any kind of email. You can make it malicious with the content, right? I send an email. I either use the AttackIQ infrastructure or I use my own custom email server, whatever I want to do this. I line up a recipient. This is then usually going to be some type of email account that I have set up for this purpose. It's for testing out my policies. Could I see this? So that's pretty easy to determine. And then what I do is I tell the platform, this is how I'm going to access the mailbox here, because what we're going to do is to send the content of the email, then use these credentials to log into the mailbox and see whether or not the email got there and if it was changed in any way. And then of course, go ahead and remove the email from the inbox. The customization here is that I can go into the email subject. I can make up the email body. I can add in my own attachments, whatever I want. So this is how we can easily customize what that email would look like. Maybe you got that spear phishing email. Maybe it came in as part of your exercise. And you want to make sure that your email security gateway is going to stop this thing going forward. So now you can make your own custom email related to that. And the way that that would happen is, and what I did here was I took another one of those malicious attachments and I took that right out of the same spot. I even used similar, this Chase bank statement march.zip is using the same malware as that coil loader that we were looking at in the packet capture. I'm using the same one. So I'm using here one of the malicious attachments that went along with that. And I can just add that attachment. And now what'll happen is I crafted a phishing email based off of this subject over here. Your Chase banking statement is ready. And then I also took and created an email, just a very simple, hey, let's use an image that would be related to them. Let's also set up some kind of language that someone would go, oh yeah, I'm gonna go take a look at this. Trying to generate a phishing email, right? But something very, very basic. So you take that, you put it right in there, and now what'll happen is once I click that to send the email, it's now going to send me the phishing email with that malicious attachment, and then see whether or not it got delivered. So it took me it really just took me over the course of a couple of minutes, the ability to say, yeah, let's create a custom phishing email right here inside of the AttackIQ platform, and now I can send it. Very, very easy to do. And then the last one that we were doing was I went a slightly different direction, and I wanted to be able to test out a specific kind of web request that would be related to a specific vulnerability. So I did a little bit of research on this CVE over here, this CVE 2021-41773, for a path traversal attack over an Apache web server. And I did a little bit of research on that, found out what was the kind of request that it was trying to make, and then what was the intention. So we're trying to do a path traversal attack. Let's see if we can execute some things off of the box just using a simple web request. So when I put in the parameters for this one, again, WAF testing is right there. And then instead of going through the template, I'm just going to go through the parameters here so we can see how we can set this up. So for this one, you set up what's the protocol that we're going to use here. The web app we're going to determine inside of the assessment, because I do have those set up as well. What's the basic payload subpath? So this is where it's going to go, and it's going to just keep using these double dots over here to try to get over into that Etsy directory, and then use really any kind of command. And I just chose hostname over here. The other ways you can customize this, because now I've done this payload subpath. That's one of the first ways I can get in. And then I can also say, well, is this going to be a get or a post? Is this going to be any kind of query string that goes along with that payload subpath afterwards? Can I put in, as part of this request data type, do I include some other post variables that are going to go in here? Can I also change my user agent? Because I can change that user agent as well, or any other headers that I want to go into this. So very easy for me to add on all of the different ways that I want to try to run this attack. We already have about 170 or so of these different types of scenarios, if I'm thinking about this correctly. Hang on one second. WAF testing. Open this in a new window. I want to make sure I'm accurate. Take a look at my models over here. Yeah, roughly 180 different types of these malicious types of web requests that we can run. So back to my WAF testing here. And this is how I would set this up. And you can see there are many different ways that you can easily customize this to fit your specific use case. But again, this took me about a couple of minutes of research to be able to say this is how we would craft the malicious web request in order to be able to get the type of response that we want. And that was it. Every single time, because I didn't want to do it every time because it works the same way regardless of the type of scenario. When I want to save this, I just simply click Save As, and then I name this scenario the way that I want, and it becomes a part of my library. Once that's done, and I'll close out of here so we can see the 3 custom scenarios that I built for this webinar here today. There's my PCAP replay, there's my malicious email, and there's my web application firewall test. I simply use the templates. I operated off the templates. All of the other information carries through. I can add on more tags if I wanted to tag these scenarios a little bit more in a little bit more of a detailed fashion to make it a little easier for me to find. But it's so easy for me to then create those custom scenarios and then be able to work with them. So now that I have this content, what can I do with it? Let's start with the packet capture one. When I run through a packet capture scenario, I create another assessment. It looks like this with the network control validation up top. This is the term I mentioned earlier. What we're doing with these is we're testing out a boundary. I have here a network topology that I've built for my environment here. At the center of this, you see this internet zone. Now what happens when you have boundary posture management with AttackIQ is that you will also get an agent that is hosted, a test point that is hosted by us. And you can use that to simulate an external attacker. One way you could use that is with a case like this, where you want to try to emulate the external attacker and then running traffic back and forth between that attacker and one that you have internally. I'm going to test out this boundary over here, this Palo Alto panorama. I click on the boundary and it shows me the two, and these are 2 zones that I have, and I have test points in each zone. The internet zone that I have over here, this is going to be my attacker. And then I take a look at one of my internal zones and I selected this test point right over here to be the one that is going to be the target on the internal side. what content am I going to use? Well, I go right down here to my test section. I manage the scenarios that are in here, and I can see this is exactly the same scenario that I had set up. So I take a look over here, I configure this scenario, and this is exactly the type of information that I was looking at. All I had to do was add in that scenario from the scenario library. I can do this really anywhere that I want to be able to run this type of PCAP scenario, no problem. So I added in that scenario, and then off we go. I would click on the on-demand section, or I would choose the scheduled if I want to run this on a scheduled basis. I ran this assessment already, so I was able to see the traffic as it went through. Now this was, again, a completely custom to the platform. We hadn't seen this one before, but it's in the platform now, or at least in my version of it. I was able to run this and then get back data. What happens with each of these scenarios here is that it will run the traffic, and you see there's two main lines here because it's looking at it from the perspective of the target and the other perspective as the attacker. So what do we see externally and internally? And it goes through the entire conversation. And you see each part of this was replayed. Some of these were not prevented, some of these were prevented. So looking at, say, one of these here, that one of the parts of the conversation that was not prevented, so nothing stopped it, it was able to carry through, but we did also see it using our controls. This is what I was mentioning earlier, that we have the ability to query your existing security stack and say, hey, did you find evidence of this thing occurring inside of your environment? I can see all of the messages that came through here. Of course, I can always take a look at the PCAP myself and see what will be happening here, but yes, we open up the socket. We were able to replay the entire, this part of the conversation right here over port 53. And I take a look at my detection details, and I was also able to see this. You have two different methods here. When I'm looking at Palo Alto, I can look at it directly through Panorama. We do have that capability. And then we also have the SIM capability here. So I can take a look at the logs via Splunk as well and be able to see the traffic. And I can even pull back the raw log as we were looking into that information now. So a couple of different ways of being able to pull back the information related to these different types of threats that we're looking at in this case. So that would be my detection of this. And you can see now this operates like any other packet capture replay scenario that we have on the platform. And it took me only a couple of minutes of downloading this. And now I have a completely different packet capture replay that I just slotted in, gave it the test points that I already have, let it run, and here we have the results. So easy for me to pull back more custom content. Now, whether this came from the site that I pulled it from, or if you've already done some of your own packet capture replays, maybe for something internally that you want to replay, same rules apply. Add the packet capture, decide who's going to be your attacker and your target, off you go. Very, very easy to do here in platform and completely supported. The second use case, where we went into the email. So I'll go back into my, where's the setup for this assessment? Okay, so this one I'm going to add in just a few extra little details because, again, my custom email webinar, I did choose to just organize it this way to make it a little easier on the eyes and I could focus a little better. I managed my scenarios that are in here. So here's the same scenario that we were just looking at, the Sendcoin loader with the AttackIQ infrastructure. I configure this. Now, I didn't have this information right over here, my recipients, my username, and I'm using the Graph API to validate the email here. I didn't have this information when I took a look at the base scenario that I created. All I had was the information about the email itself, the subject, the body, any of the attachments, all of that was there. What I can do to make my life easier, especially if I'm looking at the type of assessment in this case where I may be looking at, maybe I'm doing a couple of dozen of these emails and I don't want to have to put in the email address and the validation configuration every time. We have what's called these global properties over here, and this makes it easier for you to do this, where I can create this global property for an email recipient. Who is this going to go to? And then the retrieval protocol. How am I going to go ahead and validate that this email even got there? I put in these properties, I apply that, and then I can now automatically apply that information to all of the scenarios that are in here. So I'm making your life very, very easy to be able to do this. This is another usage of the hosted agent as well. As you see this little purple switch that I'm circling right now with my cursor, is what we're doing with the hosted agent here is we're going to use it as the test point that is going to log in to that email inbox from the outside and then validate that that email got there. You can choose to not do that and have it come from another test point that you have internal to your environment. When you select the asset, you can just say, I want it to be this asset that tests for, or this test point that does it. But you have the option there. After I run this, I would then see the results that come back from it. And I would be able to see whether or not this email was delivered or not. And even after it got delivered, was the email validated after it got through? So did we get the email through? Yeah, but was it changed in the process? Some of that delivery got there, but when I went ahead, and you can see there's 2 steps right here. So I had this overall thing was prevented, and you can see the delivery got there. So the email got there. When I take a look at the first phase of this scenario right here, I sent the email. Activity details, this is from the perspective of the test point, what happened here. We were able to send the email, it successfully sent it. I got it to this email address from this email address over here. And then I take a look and validate it. Did this actually get through? And then we had a delivery notification issue. So I wasn't able to get the original email. So it looks like it was sent, but at the same time, we weren't able to find it, which tells me that there was a control in the way somewhere that was able to prevent that from actually still sitting in the mailbox. I would need to go and validate that. You can also put in a detection for that type of control to help you validate that that happened. But this is the scenario working with that to be able to say, yes, I delivered this malicious email, but then I couldn't find it after I went in and tried to grab it. So that's what that's telling me, is that there was a control there that said, oh no, you can't be there, and went ahead and got rid of it. So that's the custom email. Again, a couple of minutes to craft that custom email, make a scenario out of it, and run it. Very easy to do. The last one that I have here is going to be on the custom WAF testing. Now this one is just going to look a little bit more red, only because the machine that I have running this is currently down, but the results are here. Now, what did I do with this one? Well, I took that scenario. I'll go ahead and manage that one over here. It's the same one over here. I configure this scenario one more time. I was able to put all of this together, and again, I'm using just the information that's here. I didn't put this in with global properties because this was kind of an outside one-off test. What I did was I had the Apache web server set up within a couple of containers that I had on another box over here. So I set up the AttackIQ test point right next to it, and then I had my Apache web server, and then I ran it against the web server that was sitting right over there in a different container. So I ran there was the payload subpath. I already had that set there, so that was fine. The only things I really had to add in were my web application and the response validation. So what we're testing here, remember, is your web application firewall. Was it able to stop this thing that occurred? And it could be generally a 403 that's going to come back as your HTTP response code if you have something that gets blocked there. But if you have other response codes that you're expecting, it could be a 400, it could be a 404, it could be a 302, whatever the case is for your environment, you can always change what those response validation codes are. And you have the ability to just, again, create these global properties here for whatever that web app that you are trying to test is. You can create them for that. You can also create this grouping of WAF responses to be able to say, yes, this is what we expect out of these web applications and the web application firewalls. And then once I've run it, again, that was something else that I could do, and just click over here and say, excuse me, I'm going to run this and say whether or not this thing actually occurred. So I tried to run it off of one test point to another, and I was not able to reach it, but I did indeed send the web application request. It sent it exactly as I expected it to. So another way that you can quickly and easily customize the way that you want to run these attacks. I didn't write really anything. I just took the content that was already there. I applied it to a number of different scenarios that already exist out of the box. And all I did was click Save As, add them to another assessment, and off I go. Using this, I was able to test out, again, 3 completely different controls, and I was able to test them out using content that I was able to quickly and easily grab and figure out what it is that I was trying to test, put it into my scenarios, put it into my assessments, and test for those results. This all happened over the course of minutes. So I took 3 disparate custom use cases. I've been talking to you since a few minutes after 1 o'clock. So we've been going through this for about a half an hour or so between the explanation, me showing you where you can go to put in all of the content for those scenarios, and then be able to create these assessments and run them. So in this way, what I'm doing is showing you how easy it is, once again, to take content, apply it into what you can use inside the AttackIQ platform, and do that kind of testing quickly and easily. Not seeing any questions in the chat right now, which is also completely fine. If you think of any, don't be shy. Definitely feel free to put those in there. But that was what I wanted to show over the course of the demonstration, showing those 3 use cases, how you can build the ingredients, how you can put them into your recipes, and how you can quickly and easily see those results. Going to pause my screen here for just 1 more second and go back to my slides here. Because then we can go into the resources, what you can do next, where you can go from here. Because after this, if you wanted to see more information, regardless of whether or not you are an AttackIQ customer, and I would hope that you would reach out to us afterwards if you're not, you want to learn more. Our AttackIQ research. So this is our adversary research team, or ART. This is a team of security experts, incident responders, malware reverse engineers, cyber threat intelligence experts. These are all people that are monitoring this type of intelligence that I was just looking at, these types of indicators that I was just going through, and mapping that back, especially to the MITRE ATT&CK framework, to be able to give you content that is actionable, timely. So get that information over to you. You can see that information there on our research page, and they're also working tirelessly to get you more content in platform that you would then be able to pick up and use, only with little to no customization whatsoever. There's also AttackIQ Academy. Again, whether or not you're an AttackIQ customer, please feel free to leverage this really valuable resource. This features high quality instructor-led training that students have been taking advantage of for years. This is a fantastic resource that we are happy to provide back to the community. Tens of thousands of students all across the world gaining knowledge and also being able to get CPEs for their certifications, all for free. Stuff that has to do with AttackIQ, stuff that doesn't necessarily have to do with AttackIQ. You want to get a little bit more education on how to use MITRE ATT&CK and different ways and different methods of using MITRE ATT&CK, as well as different research within the MITRE Ingenuity Center for Threat Informed Defense, of which we are a founding research partner. All of that is available here, and really, really valuable resource. So definitely go to academy.attackiq.com if you haven't already. Make yourself a free account and get some really good education. There are additional resources on our website as well. I would also continue to plug not only that, but all of those ebooks that we have available for you. You can go take a look at our YouTube channel and our podcast for things that we have talked about, done, shown before. In that YouTube channel, we'll also have the first part of this webinar if you wanted to see the first set of information that I had there and different ways that you can customize content here on the platform. And that's really what I wanted to be able to cover with you here today. I was super excited and continue to be excited about things that you can customize and do here in the AttackIQ platform, and most especially how I can make it easy for you to just say, you know what, I can do that, and pick that up and run with it and start to be able to create some additional really, really good content and have you feel empowered to be able to do so within the platform. At this point, I'd open it up and leave it open for another minute or so to take any of the last minute questions, but I really do appreciate you taking the time to sit with us here today to be able to go through all of this content, and I look forward to any questions or comments or anything else that you may have for us.